Hi! Normally, at events like these, we tell you all about Hypernode on the dance floor. Hypernode is our extremely flexible, scalable, and most secured managed cloud hosting platform that we've built, especially for Magento. You will be blown away by Hypernode's extraordinary performance, just like you would be blown away by our dance moves. Since there's no dance for today, please come and meet us at our digital booth instead. And maybe we can still do a little digital dance together.
Welcome back. So we do know that New York brings out the best of our speakers, and it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our next speaker. Sanne Bolkenstein is the Chief Commercial Officer at Hypernode, and she's been around the Magento community for a long time. A little bit about her. After completing her studies, Sanne moved to Uganda, where she set up a company making washable sanitary pads called AfriPads. And when she returned to the Netherlands, she started working as an account manager for a software company in media monitoring before moving to the Dutch Magento hosting company Hypernode. By then, it was still known as Byte. Today, she works at Hypernode as Chief Commercial Officer, where she combines her passion for networking and Magento to find new opportunities and markets for Hypernode to grow. Besides that, she's still involved in AfriPads as chair of the AfriPads Foundation, enjoys the Amsterdam perks, and develops an ever-deepening affection for wine, cooking, and advocates for more diversity in the workplace. I present you, Sanne.
Thank you very much, Talish, and welcome everybody to this talk about how to distinguish your Magento agency from all others and lessons that we've learned from the Hypernode Certification program. So thanks for the elaborate introduction. Like I said, this is me. I'm Sanne Bolkenstein. And as the video has shown that hopefully you've seen and that is aired throughout the event, my natural habitat is the dance floor. Sadly, I cannot go there today, but hopefully me and the team can return to that one day, as that surely is all the fun in events. So what I'm going to talk to you today about, first I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction about Hypernode, what we do as a company, and then I'll dive into the Hypernode certification. So why did we start it in the first place? What does it exactly entail? And what are the results that we've seen so far? If you have any burning questions, just please bear with me a little bit and save them till the end of the presentation. There will be enough time to ask them and hopefully also for me to answer them. So first, a little bit about Hypernode. The company was founded in 1999 in a student dorm room on a tech campus here in the Netherlands. So we've been around for quite a long time by IT standards. Nowadays, our headquarters are based in Amsterdam. We have 35 employees. And since 2016, we've been part of a larger group of hosting providers named Team Blue that is Europe-based and expanding into other markets as well. So what exactly do we do? As Talish has said, we're a hosting company. We've been focusing on hosting online stores since 2008. So basically when Magento entered the market here in the Netherlands, we started hosting Magento shops. And most people know us through Mage Reports, which is a free online tool to check the security of your Magento shop. You might know it, you might work with it, it's widely used, and we're the founders of that. And currently we have a market share of over 65% here in the Netherlands, but we're expanding internationally. So we've been hosting 2,500 online stores worldwide. And we usually partner with Magento agencies, and currently we have a network of over 100 partners also worldwide. And now, as Mage Report shows, security is a big thing for us, which is also reflected by our ISO certification. So why did we start with a certification process for our partners? Might seem a little bit weird because they are our partners, they bring us clients. How did this come? How does this lead us to us, like certifying our partners? Well, to take you a little bit back, as I said, we have a vast network of over 100 solution partners. And because we know so many Magento agencies, We also see a lot of similarities in the challenges that they face. So not only on a technical level, but also on a commercial and organizational level. And we felt, okay, we need to do something in unifying these challenges into like standards for the industry. Because the second point, there's a wide variety in quality of the agencies. Basically, anybody can call themselves a Magento agency. It's not a protected title, but there's a lot of difference in the quality of the code. So when it comes to developing and managing e-commerce shops, some agencies might have very seasoned professional Magento certified developers, where others are, for instance, more marketing oriented. But leading to the third point, e-commerce managers and shop owners, who are our clients and also the clients of our partners, usually tend to have a lack of knowledge to be able to distinguish one Magento agency from the other. So we wanted to clarify that somehow and make it a little bit easier for them to understand what the differences are. So our main goal is to have happy clients. We do this by, of course, providing the best hosting platform for Magento. But we also wanted to help our clients making the right decision when it comes to a technical solution partner. So we wanted to provide them a list of the best development agencies worldwide. And another thing that we hoped to do was we wanted to share best practices concerning Magento development. Again, with such a vast network of partners, we feel that we're in the best position to be a facilitator for knowledge sharing, and we really wanted to use that option. And then the third thing that we want to do is we want to challenge Magento agencies to improve their quality even more than they already do by visualizing all the quality improvements that they do. Most of these are not directly visible to the client, and we wanted to sort of help them to visualize that so they can also be proud of that and show what they do. So this led us to a key question, which is there a quality label on an agency level that we can use? We know there are quality labels on the individual level, like you can be Magento certified as a developer or as a solution specialist, but what about the agency as a whole? We were looking for a quality label that reflects the quality of an agency. We went looking for it and we didn't find any. So the answer to this question was no. And that has actually led us to develop such a label ourselves, which is the Hypernode Certification. So this is the beautifully designed logo for Hypernode Certified Magento agencies that you get when you're a partner and you have been certified. So what does it exactly entail, this program? As I said before, such a quality label didn't exist yet. So this is the first and only quality label on agency level that we know of so far. And any Hypernode partner can apply for a certification. Of course, this is also a limitation to the program. Only our partners can apply for it. But we can only check the code from clients that run on our platform. Hence, you have to be a partner. But any of our partners can apply for it. So then when they do, we audit them on security, stability, and code quality, but also on internal processes that guarantee constant quality. So this is not a one-off thing. It's not like you apply, we audit you, and then bam, there you have it. No, it's not a one-time check. It is a continuous guarantee of quality. Then we of course, had to determine what criteria were to be met. And this we do in a continuous dialogue with our partners. So the Magento agencies that we work with are actually the ones who set these standards. And we wanted them to be ambitious, but achievable. So the certification really has to mean something. It has to reflect a value. It shouldn't just be given away for free. But of course, it's not in our interest to develop a standard nobody can adhere to. So this was the challenge that we faced. So what are the criteria? We've looked at the whole process of developing Magento stores and what we think and what our partners think reflects quality. And we've divided those criteria in 4 different areas. The first being that a Hypernode certified agency should develop and manage Magento shops with outstanding performance. Now, what do we consider to be outstanding performance? That is, for instance, shops with a load time and TTFB below 0.8 seconds, but also an agency that has processes in place to ensure this performance. So do you work with caching? Do you work with image optimizing, etc.? Then the second area of criteria is that a Hypernode certified agency develops and manages Magento shops with the highest level of security. Again, security, very important for us, and important for us that it was visualized. So for instance, we've decided that within 4 weeks after a patch release or after a security update, a Hypernode certified agency should have implemented this patch or security update for at least 80% of their clients. But a Hypernode certified agency should also have proactive bot detection and hack detection in place, for instance. Then the third area is that a Hypernode certified agency works with professional processes concerning development, deployment, and management of Magento stores. So we check, for instance, if you work with version control, if you do not implement changes directly in a production environment, etc. And then the fourth area is that a Hypernode certified agency shows thorough knowledge of Magento. As you probably all know, we all know Magento is a wonderful application, but also has its challenges. And to be able to run it smoothly, you really have to know what you're doing. So we test this knowledge, for instance, by checking if anybody in the company is Magento certified, but also if you use the 4I principle before you make any deployments, etc., etc. So the list is quite elaborate, so I'm not going through all the criteria. These were just examples of criteria and the areas that we divided them in. Now, as I said, these criteria have to be pretty ambitious because we didn't, as I said, it really has to mean something to be certified, and it shouldn't just be up for grabs. And we see this also reflected in the reality. So when we have the first applications, only about 50% of the applicants pass the initial audits. So that means if you apply for a Hypernode certification for the first time, the chances that you pass is about 50%. Now, the other 50%, we don't leave them behind, but we give them a lot of feedback on what they should change in order to pass the next time. And we see that agencies use these learnings to change or implement processes or tooling. And after that, they apply again, and usually then they will get certified. We also get a lot of commitment from agencies. So every time when we set the standards, when we announce the criteria, we always check, is this really doable? And every time we get the feedback, yes, this is what we think we should be able to achieve. And agencies commit themselves to that and also allow us to hold them accountable for that. So if for some reason they can't meet the criteria, we have usually pretty lively discussion on how and why. And this could also lead to them losing the certification again. So what have we learned from it so far? We've launched the Hypernode certification program over 3.5 years ago. And we see that since then, keeping sites secure has become more difficult because over 3.5 years ago, most of our partners were still working mostly with Magento 1. And nowadays, most are working with Magento 2. Now, Magento 1, as you might know, had security patches which were relatively easy to implement, whereas Magento 2, when it was launched, didn't have patches anymore, but complete updates. And we see that this takes a lot more time. So the 80% within 4 weeks mark was a lot harder to achieve. And we also see that reflected in the audits that we've done. Now, of course, thankfully, Magento also has security-only patches for Magento 2, but this is too short notice to already see a change. We also learned that a lot of agencies have key person dependencies. For instance, the security of their clients is controlled by one person. And then you also see that when the person leaves the company, there's a significant drop in the security level of these stores. So that means there's a lot of dependencies on key persons within the company. Another thing that we've learned is that agencies can really learn from each other, and there's a lot of willingness to help each other out and to share knowledge. So this is also what I mentioned at the beginning, like one of our goals when we started the certification is that we host an expert meeting at Hypernode HQ each year to exchange experience and knowledge and help each other continuously to improve quality and make it through the audits. And agencies are also pretty ambitious, whereas we were or are a bit skeptical and cautious when setting these standards and announcing these criteria. We've learned that agencies were usually the ones who said, no, we set the standard higher than you initially suggest, which is, I think, pretty cool because it shows a lot of commitment to making these quality statements and adhering to them. So what have we seen so far? Of course, results. So far, we have 22 certified agencies. And what is really cool is that these agencies are not necessarily all like the large corporations. As is stated here on the sheet, the certified agencies range from 3 to 100 plus employees. So this means that quality is not necessarily reflected in the size of a company. It's really in the processes and the way that you work. You can find all these partners on our website, of course. And what else have we learned? So if you remember from the beginning of this talk, the program that we have really wanted to improve the quality of Magento development and service. So we didn't only want to like provide our clients with a list of Magento agencies that they can trust. We also really wanted to contribute to Magento development in general. And this is also what we see in the results. So for instance, one of our certified partners, they initially had a patching process where they first needed a client's approval before they implemented the patch. So this meant that when a patch was released, then discussions with the client would start, and then it could take weeks or even months before a client approved the patch. Now, if you say, okay, you have to have 80% of your shops patched within 4 weeks after release, this criterion can't be met. So this particular agency failed the initial audit, and then they changed their process. So they agreed with all of their clients that they no longer need their approval before they implement patches, and that really helps. So now this agency is consequently the best in class. They're the first to hit the 100% mark of agencies or of shops that are patched within after a security patch is released. So that's really cool. Another thing that we see is that one of our certified agencies completely redefined their SLAs. So one of the things that we also check on is for the support, how you've organized it, and are you available 24/7? And if not, how do you make sure that your clients can reach somebody in case of an emergency? So this could also be by referring them to our emergency service, because we are available 24/7. We always have a technician on call. But then the client, of course, should know that they can reach out to us and that we are going to help them. So this needs to be defined in the relationship between the agency and their clients. So, for instance, through an SLA. So what we require then is if you have SLAs, share them with us so that we can check. And this particular agency did have SLAs, but according to us, they were a bit vague on certain agreements when it comes to backups or when it comes to this the availability of support and the 24/7 hour. So they've taken our feedback and they've redefined their SLAs. And now they actually have 3 different types of SLAs where either the client can contact them directly or is directed to us. So this is, again, like something that has really improved the processes of an agency and also their relationship with the clients. And then another thing that we've seen is that an agency has introduced proactive hack detection. As I said in the beginning, security is a big thing for us. So we really want to encourage our partners to implement as many security processes as possible. And proactive hack detection is one of these options. Now, there are several tools available in the market, but we also see that not every agency is aware of this or is aware of the necessity to use these tools. And it's really cool that this agency, after initially failing the audit, has introduced proactive hack detection and then passed. And then the fourth thing which I think is worth mentioning is that an agency firmly improved their employee exit policy. So one of the things that we audit agencies on when they apply for the certification is that they have a good training program for new employees. Again, to share that Magento knowledge, as we said, as you might remember, that's one of the areas of the criteria is that you have thorough knowledge of Magento. So that means you should also have processes in place to train new employees. So this is something that we ask, but at the same time, it's just as important that when an employee leaves the company, they are no longer able to access client data or that they are no longer to access critical processes. So you have to change passwords and all these things. And this particular agency did not really have such a thing in place. So it couldn't guarantee that when an employee is left the company, they couldn't access critical data anymore. So after we've given this feedback, they said, okay, you're right, we should do something about this. So they've really made it a lot clearer and a lot stricter what needs to be done when an employee leaves the company. So this, again, this shows that all these 4 examples shows that it's not that easy to pass initially. But the good thing when you apply for the certification is that you get feedback to improve your processes, and that we also see that works. So our partners really take that feedback and say, okay, these and these are the areas that we have to work on, and they do that, and they continue to do that. So the initial goal that we had when we said, okay, we really want to improve the quality of our agencies that work with us, and we want to continue to challenge them, that was met. So to conclude, as you might remember when I started this presentation, is that I said, okay, we got from our partners the need to be able to distinguish themselves from other agencies, because there wasn't such a thing like a quality label for agencies yet. So if anybody can call themselves a Magento agency, how does a client, like an e-commerce manager or a shop owner, distinguish one Magento agency from the other? There should be some sort of objective quality label for agencies. And then we got also the question from my clients saying, so these shop owners saying, okay, please, you work with a lot of agencies, just sort of help us decide which agency is the one to work with. Of course, this is not the only thing that you should look at. You should also look if there's a cultural fit, for instance, between the client and their partner. If they are based in the same location, for some clients that matters. So there's a lot of other criteria, but particularly this, to sort of see, okay, how can I make a decision based on quality, wasn't there yet. And then the third one, as Hypernode, as I said before, we started hosting Magento shops in 2008. So we've been around for pretty long. And we also feel that we're not only a hosting company, but we also want to really contribute to the the quality of Magento development worldwide. Now, these were three key factors that we wanted to do when we started with the certification program. And as you hopefully also could tell, this also worked because we have the logo that agencies who are certified can use. We refer our clients to this. It's also clearly visible on our website. And then, as these 4 examples have shown, we really help to encourage agencies to change their processes and make them even better. And then a Hypernode certification reflects this. So this was my presentation. Thank you very much for attending and for listening. And I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Wow, that is amazing.
Thank you.
There isn't any questions right now, so if anybody has any questions, feel free to pop them into the Q&A tab on the side of the presentation. But at least from my personal point of view, I don't think there was a single thing you said in that presentation that I disagreed with, especially as a person who's very involved in security when it comes to Magento. I'm so happy to see all of this, especially the checks and balances when it comes to the human part of protecting e-commerce stores. So while we wait for questions to come in, I had one maybe ask for a little bit more clarification on your side. Well, for things like exit policy and continuous processes within an organization. Do you assist agencies based on their size and complexity for things like exit policy and continual processes for securing, or is it right now just blanket? Because I do know in my experience sometimes what applies to a larger company may not apply, may not be feasible at smaller agencies. What's your thoughts on teasing out those variations when it comes to what is necessary for certification?
Yeah, so I think this is why it's such a good thing that it's a manual process, right? So there's actually people looking at the applications and going through all the different criteria, and also then factoring in, of course, also things like this. Like I said before, there might be key person dependencies, but this is something that you really you cannot change if you're only 3 persons in a company. You're definitely having key person dependencies, and that is also okay. I mean, it doesn't mean that the quality that you deliver is less than a large company. It's just something to factor in. Okay, if this person leaves, then what are you going to do? So that is also what we ask. We don't ask you to prevent from having key person dependencies, because we also see in reality that's not feasible. But we just ask you, what do you do when this person leaves? And it could be really anything. We see that the large enterprises, of course, they have very detailed descriptions of what should happen, and then the smaller size companies don't really have such a thing. But as long as they can explain and be approved, then it's okay.
Right. We have one question from Mark Lewis, who is going to be the next speaker after the lunch break. On this track. His question was, would you publish your requirements or recommendations publicly for agencies to help evaluate themselves?
So this is something that we've been thinking about, but the criteria are not set in stone. As I said, this is a continuous dialogue with our partners, and they also change over time. So for now, we've decided to not publicly publish them, but really to keep it internal within our network of partners. But I mean, I'd be happy to share the criteria that we've had in the past. We just cannot promise that these are the criteria we're going to practice for the next audit round, because as I said, these keep on changing. Okay,
great. There is no other questions, but I have another one. Oh. I'm sorry. I'm just happy about all of this stuff. So your reevaluation cycle.
Yeah.
Will it be different time periods for different aspects of certification. For example, the exit strategy. Maybe that's not something you need to revisit as often as are you patching on time, or the other more urgent parts of requirements to be a partner.
Yes.
Is there multiple cycles involved, or is it just one? Does it all fit into one cycle of revalidation?
Yeah, so we don't want to give away too much because we don't want the partners to make sure they have everything in place just before we start auditing them. But in general, we check about 2 times a year. And of course, you're right, not all the criteria are checked every time. Some are only checked for the initial application, and then are not revisited so often, and others are. But as we say, it's a continuous guarantee of quality. So it could happen that we check you on one of the criteria that have not been checked for a long time, and then we don't meet it. That leads to questions.
Yeah, because that's my one concern when it comes to having some sort of certification process, and I've seen it all too often. Everyone just tries to hit all the checkboxes before certification, and then they just forget about it, right?
So that's why we're very open about how we do it and why we do it, but not so much about when we do it.
So totally understand, and I'm 100% on board with that.
Cool, thanks.
I see Elena had a question about the certification badge and getting one. What I would suggest is, since there's no more questions, hold on, let me double check to make sure there's no more questions. No, there is no more questions. Since there's no more questions, I would recommend to you, Elena, and anybody else who's interested, to head over to the Hypernode booth and see how they make, and you could get in touch with Sanne and various other people at Hypernode to ask more questions. And you can also see how they make better and faster Magento and Shopware stores while saving time on development with Hypernode.
Yes.
So Hypernode is a sponsor, and feel free to hop over to their booth to get more information. At this point, we're going to be taking a break for lunch, and we will be back in an hour, I believe. Yes, an hour to continue speaking with more solutions for Meet Magento New York. Thank you so much, Sanne, and I look forward to seeing you guys soon.
Yeah, me too. Thanks.